I'm sitting here right next to a really good friend of mine. Her name is Jum, but if you hear me call her Jum, that's because in Vietnamese I'm using honorifics. I look up to her as an older sister, so that's why I use the word J in front. Jay, do you want to say hi to our audience today on your live stream?
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much, and it's such an honor to have Vicky Nguyen sitting next to me, and then I feel, less nervous. Thank you for being here with me.
Of course. Yeah. Well, today you might already know that Dejum, she has her own salon out in the beautiful Santa Monica area, so close to 3rd Street Promenade. She has a long-standing business out there. She started much earlier than before Santa Monica, but she's expanded to out there, and today she is going to be sharing some of her tips and secrets basically to her followers. She is going to start off on a classic set on our beautiful model Alex here, and eventually it's going to blossom into a hybrid Russian volume set. But we're going to be working on her right eye today, just so you guys can see the before and after effect. But right now, Jijum is going to be selecting her tools. She's gonna get some glue and work on these lashes here. So, Jijum, while you work, if you don't mind, if you can tell people why you want to share, some of your secrets. Why not keep it to yourself?
I think, since I was young, I always tutor the kids in the neighborhood when I first started learning English back when I was in Vietnam. And then when I was in high school, I tutored my friend who couldn't keep up with the math class. So it's always in me I like to share knowledge. So I feel like a lot of time the client come in, like when I have a new client, they come in getting lash done with makeup still on, or like they would never decide to do like a new set because they think that they told me that they never have to do a new set with other places. Why do they need to do with me? Or they would say, oh, I have to wait for 24 hours before I wet my lash. Or like they never wet their lash at all. So I feel like there are so many misinformation out there. So I feel the need to come out and clarify some information because I feel like the lash industry is so young. So there's a lot of misinformation.
And so you might have caught what she just talked about. So we know that the beauty industry has been around since the beginning of time. People want to feel, beautiful, and they want the outside to reflect how they feel inside. And sometimes what you feel inside can't come through to the outside if you're struggling with your image a little bit. And so Jijum does have experience in hair, makeup, nails, and all of that. But in the last few years, she has brought on this other expertise, which is, lash extensions. It is definitely a growing industry. I can't tell you how many people I see out on the streets with lash extensions. And you can tell sometimes, that when you go out and you talk to someone up close, some people, their strip doesn't look as beautiful as others. You can tell that there, are some people who are going to artists who are not as experienced, or perhaps they're not using the best quality of tools and materials as well. And so Jijum, because she's experienced, she does want to share that wealth of knowledge with people. She is bringing on this live stream series. She hopes to be able to reach out to many artists as she can, because we all start from somewhere, right, Jane? So
right, exactly.
Just spreading the knowledge.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm starting out with the classic, a hybrid Russian volume set. Is a combination of classic and Russian volume lashes. And the difference between the classic and the Russian volume is you can see the classic is only one lash per one lash. So it can create a very natural look, but then some client may unfortunately have very blonde lash or very spaced out lash, so there will be gap in between. So this one won't be bring out enough volume for the client. So that's when we need the Russian volume to come in to finish and bridge in all the gap between the lashes.
So this classic look would look good on, for example, Alex. She has really
Yeah.
long, naturally long, dark lashes. And so adding on one artificial lash on her natural lash, that brings up some volume and length there. But what Jijam is saying is, if you're not as blessed as Alex here with nice long luscious lashes here naturally, sometimes you can receive some help by adding some more volume and just some extra thickness into that area.
Yes. And then the weight of the lash is also important. So what I'm doing right now is 0.15. So the weight and the length of the lash will decide the duration, the retention of the lash. So when the natural lash is very small and thin, and we put some very heavy or very long lash onto the natural lash, then the retention won't be as long.
So I think, or I imagine that a lot of people who are tuning in today, they might be starting out in their careers, or perhaps they are interested in jumping onto this trend here. But it is definitely not something that you should jump on without doing your research and pursuing some sort of education, right, G?
Exactly, because it looked very simple. But like one movement that I make involve probably 6 steps if I break it out.
Wow.
So first you have to learn, like, naturally you won't know how to coordinate both hands together, especially if you're right-handed. You're very good with using only the right hand, but when you combine the left hand together, you will feel like something not normal. And then another step would be picking the lash. So you see so many lash here, how can you make sure you pick only one and not 10, right? And then another step would be to separate. How can you separate only one lash? So one of the challenge when a new stylist or a new student come in, they can never find one lash. They would feel like so shaking and they cannot find one lash at a time. And when you put one extension on just 3 lash, that will damage the natural lash.
Wow.
Because each lash have its own growth phase. It have like the baby phase. I would just say like normal term. There's like a term for it, but I would like to say just like in the normal way so everyone can understand.
Yes, please.
So we have like a young lash that just like barely come off the skin, and then we have like adult lash, maybe more mature one, and then eventually we have like really mature lash that's about to be shedded. So the young and the mature one shouldn't have any lashes on, because the very old one will be like falling in just a few days. So when you put the extension on, the client come home and she see a lash shed with her own natural lash, she would think
very disappointed and or angry.
Yeah, she would think that, oh, eyelash extension ruined my natural lash, but no, because her natural lash is about to come off in 2 or 3 days. So by experience, when I look at the pore, like at the part, like at the root, I can tell if that lash is about to come off. There's like a little bit of the bulb, like right on top of the skin is a little white. That means that the bulb is coming out of the skin. So when we see that, we don't put it on. And also like the lash who's so small, we don't put it on neither, because we want to nurture it to come out.
Well, from just sitting right next to her, I can tell that this is something that you should not jump into unless you're really committed and serious about this, because not only do you have to be good at this, but you really have to be patient. Precision is key, just like Jijam was talking about. She's really looking at every single hair that is on your eye. She is checking every single hair to see if this is a lash that she should indeed put an artificial lash onto, because if you put it onto a lash that is aged and is not capable of carrying that extra weight anymore, it's going to shed. And as you can imagine, if you go home and if you see a lot of lashes shedding after laying on that chair for a long time, you would definitely be upset and disappointed in your work. So this is definitely a career that when you enter, you have to search for mentors. I feel like if you want to excel in life, in a profession, you have to seek out those teachers. Think back to a teacher that you had when you were in school. You must have had someone that you really looked up to. So in this field, it's the same exact thing. If you want to get into this profession, you have to search out those mentors, those people who will tell you, that your fan, which we'll learn about later, doesn't look that great, and you need to practice a little bit more. And it's natural for a lot of people to see that a lot of lash artists are excelling these days, making a lot of money, and perhaps they're posting a lot on social media. And on social media, not everything is true to the eye every single time, right? So just because someone has a huge following, you don't know if they purchased those followers or they actually earned all of those people one by one. And so that's why we really believe that if you are truly interested in becoming a lash artist, you should seek out those mentors, people that you can learn from, and really pick their brain. Because obviously, if you're someone who has been in this business for a while, you have done a lot of trial and error, you learned a lot, you've made mistakes, and now you're ready to share that wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
So
I would like to catch up back, doing a lot of tasks kind of make me fall off on my thinking a little. That's why I have you here helping me. But earlier when I mentioned about the phase of growth of the natural lashes, because when a new stylist do eyelash extension, one of the most common mistake is they put one extension on 3 to 5 or even 10 lashes. So there are two disadvantages to that. So when they put, say, only 3 lashes. So when the 3 lashes is stick together onto the extension, and they have different growth phase. Say one lash is fall off, then it's hanging, and that one fall out gonna poke into the client skin, and she feel itchy, so she gonna start scratching. And when she scratch, all the other lash gonna be either falling out or gonna be like damaged, right? So it's not good. And then the second one is, say, if the client doesn't do anything, like so insensitive, or like, okay, I'm not gonna touch it. When she come back for a refill, it's impossible to do a refill for a stylist. So that's why, like, when you can come back to a stylist, like after a month, the lash will be like all crooked, because now it's not sustainable. Or like for the stylist, she can't, for the lash extension to work, you have to attach only one extension per one natural lash. So when the client come back in 2 weeks, it's impossible to open that up because they all glued together. So it's very important for the stylist to do it right from the first time, because it's impossible to come back, because this is adhesive. Once it's set, it's not possible to be separated back up.
Okay, so you're setting yourself up for success.
Yes.
You're doing it the right way.
From the very first set, and then from then on. So that's why sometimes the very first set always take longer, because we have to invest in doing it the right way. And then once the first set is done and she come back for a fill, it will be a lot faster, because now you have a perfect setup, a perfect foundation, and you just come in and fill in the lash where it's missing, instead of you have to tear the lash apart. Seriously, like when you have lash, like sometimes I take client from outside, foreign fills. It's and then that client doesn't want to invest the fund into doing a brand new set, then we have to work with a fill, and it's a very real challenge to separate it.
You're a different lash artist. You don't know, what kind of. Well, I'm sure if you took a look at their work, you can tell if they use quality lash extensions or good glue and things like that. And so that's why a lot of artists, I've noticed that if you try to book an appointment with someone, they'll say no foreign fills, because people don't want to correct another lash artist's mistake.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very difficult, because you don't want the client to walk away feeling unsatisfied when really they've been trying to correct someone else's piece of work.
Yes. So that's going to bring up to another business business topic. That is other salon policy, but at my salon, I always take in foreign fill all the time because this is what I encourage my student. Once you can correct somebody's work, that means that you're a master. Because like someone come in with like really beat up lash and you're able to work with them, then the client go and then you explain to the client what's going wrong with the current lash, and they always become a very loyal customer. And because we start off with a very disciplined way of doing lash, like if the lash are stuck together, we will use the gel to remove. So that's why when the foreign fill is always more expensive than our own salon fill. Say our regular client come in every 2 weeks, we charge less than a foreign fill, and we explain to them why. We explain that we have to remove more than what you currently have. You know, like she come in, she would say, oh, I still have half of my lash on. You don't need to do a lot. And then I would say, well, when you lay down and I put the tweezers in and try to separate, if I have to remove more, then then probably you don't have half of the lash off, but you will have probably just 10%. But when you explain to the client, then the client would understand. But from the business standpoint, why would you turn a client away when you have to spend like 6,000 or 10,000 to earn only one client? I have done that in the past. I spent 6,000, I earn only one client. So when a client already step into your door, why you turn them away? You know, so if you have a solution for that client, you should take them on.
Well, this is a live stream. Debunk is currently live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. If you have access to those platforms right now, please leave some questions for her. She does want to be able to share her knowledge here and answer any questions that you might have. I know from a standpoint of my own personality, sometimes I'm really shy and I am afraid to ask questions publicly, and I'd rather just ask a mentor a question in private. So if you want to DM her or email her, there's all that information in the description box. But if you are brave and you want to take on this new challenge of entering this field, please leave some questions below, because she would love to read and engage with everyone. Right?
Yes, I would love to. That's the reason why we're doing this. So you can see that I'm halfway through the classic portion. Like I said, the hybrid Russian is a combination of the classic volume and the Russian volume. So I would go in with the classic portion first. And what I'm doing is I'm using weight 0.15 and the length going from 9 to 11, because she has some so I use weight and the length based on the natural health of her lash. I feel like this one would last her a long time and doesn't damage her lash. So her lash right here, she has a lot of lashes, but it looks like it's coming out.
So they're new?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're baby lashes.
And then it's on a fine size, like they're coarse, medium thickness, and then coarse and very fine. So her lash is like between the medium and the fine texture. So we don't want to use too long or too heavy. And then another thing when a stylist work on the client is she should position the eye right in front of her, like move the head, for example, and the tape have to always straight on to support her work, because when it's not lifted correctly, then she can accidentally stick one extension into 3 or 5 just because she doesn't come in at the right angle.
So that takes some comfortability, right? You have to be comfortable with explaining to your client that, hey, you know, I might have to move your head or tilt you a little bit, instead of being shy and then keeping that that thought in your
Exactly.
mind. And instead, you might risk poking or hurting your
or
client.
like you're hurting your back too.
Exactly.
You have to support your own body because like a normal eyelash artist on average about 8 to 12 hours a day. I myself sit like on average about 10 to 12 hours a day, so I gotta make sure I sit comfortably. So when I'm going out here, I'm adding a little bit of size 12, the length number 12, so that it creates a little bit of open, like more an almond shape.
Is that what a lot of people are asking for?
Almond shape is the most popular. I would say 80% of clients would have this one. And this is a false proof. When you have a new, like when a stylist have a new client, it's almost guaranteed that you cannot go wrong with this one.
Okay.
And Alex here is like the first time I'm doing her lash. And then honestly, I'm under a little pressure being live. So this is like a for sure way that I won't make a mistake. And then maybe later on when we go live many times and I become more comfortable, then we can go on like the design. Because when you do like a fox eyes, cat eyes, it requires a lot of precision. Like when the transition in length, you have to follow very like specific length at certain portion of the eye to create the look. Okay, so it looks like I'm okay with the classic, and now we're gonna start making some fan. This is the fun. This is the fun part of it all.
So as you guys can see, before we move on and talk about fans, just comparing Alex's left eye versus her right eye. The left eye has been untouched, right? But then the right eye has been completed with a classic set, right?
With
so
a
now
classic.
Debunk is going to be implementing some fans. And it might be self-explanatory, but Debunk, if you can explain what a fan is.
Oh yeah.
We will get on to the next part about that, but please tell us what fans are.
Sure. So a lot of clients still, it's funny, when I first opened my salon in Santa Monica, my salon was one of the 3 original salons in the whole city. It was still like very rare, and it was very risky for a business owner to be fully invested in something new because no customer, they wasn't aware of the service available. They don't understand what eyelash extension is. So they're not looking for it. So for a business owner to invest 100% of their service into that is a very risky thing. So not a lot of eyelash extension exclusive salon exists. So a lot of people would peek in the door, "Hi Tiem, what is eyelash extension?" You always get that question.
Educate.
But nowadays, I don't get that question anymore. Nobody asks me, what is eyelash extension anymore? But now I have a lot of questions. What is Russian volume?
More specifics
Yes.
about the business.
Now they're gonna be like, "Oh, what is Russian volume? I see this online." Or some misinformation. "Oh, Russian volume is too heavy. Look like, you know."
To be honest, that's what I thought. Russian volume just meant volume. A lot.
Yes,
A
because
lot of
that's what
volume.
you see on Instagram.
Yes, yeah.
So Instagram and Facebook and social media is to promote the technique, but when the artists go too much into the technique, they forgot the perception of the clients, because they're not too much into the technique. They just want the end result, how it look on their own. So Russian volume is only a technique, and I will explain it right now so you would understand. So basically, Russian volume is formed by a much lighter weight lash. So in the past, we only think that, oh, mink eyelash is the premium, is the best out there. But it's not true anymore. So Russian volume is the best eyelash extension right now, because the weight of the Russian volume is actually a lot lighter than mink itself. So I have a 0.07 here, and you can see one strand. Can you close up into, so if you can see one strand, I can compare right here. you can see her real lash, but you cannot see the extension, right?
So thin.
So that's enough to tell you that the Russian volume is the premium one because it's so lightweight. Yeah, even the camera cannot detect it. Okay, so that's how good it is. But who want such a fine lash, right?
Yeah, you want it to show.
Yeah. So for it to show, you will need to make it into a fan.
So in this case, G, how much is in one fan? How many individual lash extensions are in one fan?
So to answer that question, it will be up to the client. So when the client say, oh my God, I don't want Russian volume, I found it on social media, it looked too fake. Then just by that response from the client, we will know that the client don't want a normal Russian volume, then we will customize it. The beauty of Russian volume is you can customize the thickness. It goes from 2D to even 30 something D. And of course, you have to use different thickness so that when it go on the lash, it's healthy enough. And it's very, it's totally healthy because some client lash can support like more than 30 strand of Russian volume. But on average, on my client, I would change between 3D to about 7D for a Russian and a hybrid, depending on how much the gap that I need. And that's why I love Russian volume because you can totally customize it to specific area. Because some client have like some lash loss at certain spot, then you can fill in the bridge.
Okay. So any bald spots, you're filling it in, closing that gap.
Right. Not on the skin, just like on the edge of the two other lash. Because this eyelash extension is not supposed to go on the skin. If it go on the skin, it will come right off. When the skin produce natural oil, it will come off. So on this
That's
one,
a fan right there.
no, I'm gonna make it right now.
Wow. Okay.
So you can see like after I wiggle a little bit, it become a fan.
So
And-
you're picking up the lash extensions and you're maneuvering them in a way where you kind of spread them apart. If you've seen any of those fans that you can buy, when you spread them apart, it just looks like a fan. So that is what she's doing now. She's kind of grabbing the extensions and then she's going to maneuver them so they open up like a fan.
And that's why I would like to touch base on the pro and cons of whether we should use like a pre-made fan or like a fan that I'm doing right now.
So for the sake of this, we'll call something that you can buy, a fan that you can buy pre-made, and then something that you make yourself, you would hand make it.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes. And the beauty of handmade fan is when you put this fan onto the lash, it will create the wrapping, the envelope effect. Say, this is your natural lash, right? This is your natural lash, and say the fan have 4, it will go in like this. It will be locked inside. This is how the natural lash will grab the fan. But when you buy a pre-made fan, this is how the fan will say, like that. So if you don't position it right, it's gonna be tipped, and it will be lift, right?
Okay.
So when those happen, the client will feel itchy and they scratch, and then the lash will pop. So that's why the retention on the pre-made fan is not long enough. And also, when you purchase a pre-made fan, they use glue, they use adhesive to dip those fans, to make those fans already.
So it's going to be a little clumpy too.
Yes, so there's already some weight on the pre-made fan. And then when you dip the fan on, so that
Another layer.
not only one layer, but it has to take about 3 to 4 times. Somehow it just like make up not only the double the layer, it has to take about 2 to 3 amount of glue to be able to stay on one lash.
It's so heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the balance, somehow you have to control the balance. And then another thing is not many people think of, but think about this. On the natural lash, on the pre-made lash, the material exactly like how my material is right now. And then they have to use glue to glue them together, and those glue go old. Say you purchase it from Korea, from Vietnam, from China, how long it take those lash to be shipped to America, right? Like a month or 2. So those glue become very old. And when you dip it into the glue like you do right now, it will melt those glue. So the glue that you put on like the whole bond together will melt those.
So they don't work well together.
Not that they
Yeah.
don't work well, but they will reduce the quality of the glue.
Oh, so then it won't stick on and stay
No.
long enough. Okay.
So it's kind of like you need certain amount of strength to hold on to the lash, but now the new glue have to compensate to the old glue, and all of it together they make a new composite, very low quality glue, and then it will last probably just 1 hour. I mean one week.
One week.
Yes,
Wow.
normally in 1 week, like those pre-made fan kind of fly away. So, but some stylists, they choose to do that, and then to compensate for it, they have to use extra glue, or put it on the skin, or put 2 or 3 together, create a clump. And then when you create, like, when you put like 2 or 3, because the client would not know, because it's a volume set, there's so much, it looks very good, but at the base of it, they don't know if they're stuck together. So when you put one pre-made fan onto one natural lash, it won't stay, but if you put them into 3 or 4 natural lash, it will stay. But then it's very damaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the only way for the pre-made fan to stay. But I'm not here to tell what other stylists to do.
No.
I'm just I'm just explaining, it's not the best thing to do. But I can understand, in some place the stylists choose to do it that way. So that's the way they do it.
Yeah, everyone makes their own decisions based on whatever circumstance they're in. But it is true what they say. They say you do pay for quality. So there are artists out there, and this is their own business model, and it works for them. They're able to do this. However, based on her experience, she knows that if she had a decision between purchasing pre-made fans versus making her own, which takes more time, it takes a lot of precision, practice, and really patience, right? She is opting for that whole longer list of laundry items in order to make it so clients will come back to her. So she's more interested in hand making all of these fans.
So you see, only one fan, only one fan go in can make up to the thickness and the coverage of like 10 other extension.
And so now you're just gonna fill it up with fans
Yes.
in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you decide where to put a fan after you've already made a full line of classic?
The classic,
Yeah.
I would put on every other single.
And you're still looking at the age of the lashes too to make sure
Yes.
if it can handle all that weight.
So it's like why, because like with experience, you can just glance through. You kind of have to make decision on the fly almost, because on one lash there's an average of, on one eye there's an average of 100 to more than 100 natural lash. So you have to do so many movement. So that's why the technique have to be, gotta get down the technique. So when the client sit on your chair, all you have to think about is the design. So you don't have to struggle with the technique anymore. So all you need to do is when the client come in, you focus your energy on just designing the best set of lash for her instead of having to struggle how to make a fan or like how to attach a lash. And timing is another important factor. When a lash artist work on a model and doing a promotion shoot, she can make such a beautiful set. She can make like wonderful fan, right? But it's very hard for her to build a clientele, for example, because she's such a perfectionist. And her clientele don't have much time. For example, my client just like to be at the salon on average for 1 to 1.5 hours.
So it's her lunch break or something?
Yes. So when you're too perfectionist, it's going to be hard to build a clientele. So you have to be quick. So you have to balance out between the art and the time.
Yeah, that makes sense, because a lot of women, when they choose to get lash extensions, it's because they think it's convenient, right? Imagine you're getting ready in the morning having lashes already perfect on your lids, that saves you at least 5 to 10 minutes. And so being able to have lash extensions and going in to get them, you want the service to be done correctly, right? Nicely, so you walk away feeling happy, but you also want it to stay because you want to save time. You want to, be able to come back every 2-3 weeks, but you don't want to come in before your appointment, right?
And not just being able to stay, it's not just about retention, it's all about comfortableness. Because I've been wearing lash extension myself for many years, so I have the first-hand experience of being a client. I got it done I wish to have it done every week if I can, so I don't have to spend too much time, but depend on my schedule. Sometimes I have to have it done every 3 weeks or 2 weeks. And somehow, between those times, I have certain set that doesn't perform so well. The lash starting to poke onto my eye. I constantly have to put it up. It's very uncomfortable. So it's not just about the attention, the retention. It's about the comfortableness. Because when the lash starting to poke, the client would feel anxiety because they would be like, oh, what am I doing to myself? Why am I spending all this money to get my lash ruined? I'm sure that will come off in their mind, but they would be like, oh, but it's beautiful, I'll do it. But I'm sure in the back of her mind, she's still thinking, but maybe this job is
like that.
Exactly, yeah. Or like they don't know anything better, but I'm sure they will feel like, oh, they probably doing something, to themselves, so the client don't feel confident in their own decision. So we don't want the client to feel that way. We want the client to go home and feel and never have to worry about their lash.
Okay, so you're not only thinking about your clients when they're on your chair here, but you're thinking about them when they
day
leave,
by
when they
day
go home for that whole two
exactly
week process.
Think about her when she wake up. Think what she do with her lash. Think about what she do when she go home and wash her hair every day. So those are the time that she check in the mirror every single day, at least twice. Make sure that she feel very comfortable with the lashes.
On point.
Because we want the client to feel like at ease, like not having to worry about the quality of the lash that they're receiving. So there are many ways of making fan. I'm switching between making it with the finger and on the strip. So there are many ways. And sometimes, like I explained to my student, it's better to do it right the first time. To do it right than to do it fast. So when you just learn, make sure you do it correctly and then gradually. So focus on the correct techniques before you're trying to speed up.
So I know you've told me that you've taught people how to do this, and you say that you can teach, but it really requires patience and practice, right, Jay?
Yes, but then I have started training since 2014, so it's been like 4 or 5 years. And then I hire them after the job, because most of the time it's very hard for me to hire a stylist from outside, because I have certain way of doing lash extension, and then my clientele expect to receive the same kind of quality. So far I have always hired someone with very little experience or like with no experience at all. And then I train them into a very skillful lash artist. So I get to see firsthand how they struggle, what are the common mistakes. So I kind of can read their mind, like what kind of mistake they would make, and I kind of prevent them from making those mistakes. Because once they start a bad habit, it's going to become permanent if they're not corrected. But why it looks difficult, it only takes 2 days to learn if you learn it correctly.
Okay, so if you're taught by the right person, you're practicing, you're using the techniques
Mm-hmm.
from the very beginning.
Yes.
It shouldn't take that long.
No, because all the steps are broken into smaller steps.
Wow, so we're definitely seeing volume
It's
and
being built up.
thickness
Mm-hmm.
on the right eye of Alex here, and especially on the outer portion of her eye. So if you're interested in receiving services from Jijam, you can also find her on social media. You can look her up on the Lash handle, Lash Pilot. That's Lash Pilot, as you know, a pilot that flies planes. And you can find her on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube now, where she's going to be posting videos and live streams, lessons, and all of that kind of good stuff. But she's very active on Instagram. I know that she does go live on Instagram to show people and showcase her work there. But
Okay, so I think we already go over the pre-made
so
or handmade.
yes, pre-made versus handmade. And you know, a big thing I think a big question a lot of clients ask, if their artist doesn't already address this, but before they get up from their seat or even leave the salon, there's always one question that they ask you, Jim. How long? How long until I can shower or wet my lashes, right? And most of the time, I think people are told you have to wait a full 24 hours. Make sure you don't shower or shower beforehand. Don't touch your lashes. Don't wet it. Wash your face a certain way, and all of that. But tell us about that, Jijam. Do you really have to wait 24 hours before wetting your lashes?
No.
'Cause that's a long time.
No, I know. Because imagine it, like everyone have to wash probably on average, you have to
Hopefully.
shower twice,
Yes,
right?
hopefully.
Within the 24 hours, it's almost impossible not to wet your lash. And the whole point of getting lash extension done is to make your life easier, not more stressful, right? So, so the job of a stylist is to make sure she go home, she never has to stress about her lash. And then luckily, nowadays a lot of adhesive company produce fast drying adhesive.
Yeah.
It dry and it's set within matter of just seconds.
Oh.
So we have boosters to boost it so that it can dry and cure within just few seconds or like matter of minutes the moment the client leaves the salon. So the information about not wetting your lash is so old, so outdated. In the past, now when we do eyelash extension, we do layers. Meaning in the natural lash, there's about 3 to 4 or even 5 layers, depending on how thick your natural lash is. In the past, we do only 1 layer.
Okay.
So whatever lash you see, there's you only do horizontally, and that become a set of lash extension. So that's why in the past they always ask, how many lash do you put on my lash? That is the question. So if you go to a salon that they explain how many lash they put on, that's probably they do it very old way, because it's almost impossible for you to count.
Yeah.
So nowadays we do it in layers, and
So
we
it's textured.
yes, and then you observe the texture, and then you finish or you start. And when in the past, when you do horizontally and say on the whole lash, you only need to put on 30 lash. The lash, the adhesive was very thick, and you have to wait for 24 hours at least for it to cure. So in the past, about 10 years ago, yes, that information was correct. But nowadays, you can do it so fast. It has to be fast drying because on each eyes we put about more than 100 lash.
Wow.
So it's impossible to use that adhesive and wait for it to dry. It's like almost impossible for the stylist and for the client to spend that long time. So nowadays, it's very fast drying. But why that information keeps circulating? I ask myself because it's quite frustrating. when you have to teach every single new stylist that come in that, okay, please don't spread that information, it's very outdated. Whenever I hire a new stylist and I forgot to give them like a run through of what to explain to the client about aftercare, the first thing they tell the client is, don't wet your lash, and that's totally wrong. So why that information keeps circulating? Because as a business owner myself and active on social media, I receive, honestly, one day I can have 10 suppliers trying to contact me, ask me to put a private label on the adhesive bottle and make it my own brand name. So it can be profitable if you know the logistic, There's another whole thing about set up the logistic to sell it, Don't get into it if you don't have the logistic already. You have to have a person to ship and follow up on the client, their complaint and everything. So don't feel like too tempted to jump onto that if you are new to the industry. But say if you are ready to have your own brand, all you need to do is to just pay someone from China or from Vietnam or from Korea and make it a label. And honestly, it costs just $200. That cheap to start your own brand. But the bad thing about that is you don't know nothing about the ingredient.
What's really inside each product.
Yes. How would you know how many percentage of of carbon or the active ingredient in there? How can you explain to the client about the drying time? So you don't know nothing about it. And what if the client have allergic reaction? How would you know what triggered? So it's a whole liability issue that comes with it. But because of that, the stylists are not aware of what the specific instruction, the drying time and everything. They just launch their own brand and they follow the old instruction. That's been circulating from blogger, and I even see some famous blogger circulating the same information because they like to be active on social media, so they just copy from one blogger to another blogger, and they could be very good writer, but they don't know the real information. So, sorry, I got really emotional about it.
So you can tell that she feels a certain way about this because she truly cares about her craft. And if you're purchasing from the same people and you're copying and paste all of the information in the description box from one person online and then posting it on yours, you're truly not learning about what you are providing your clients. So if you don't know the active ingredients and special things that go into every single product, for example, adhesive that you're using, you are basically just copying and paste at the end of the day. And so that's why a lot of artists are saying or telling their clients that, oh, you have to wait 24 hours at least before you can wet your lashes, because that's a blanket answer. It's an easy, safe answer for them to say because they truly don't know how effective this adhesive is, whether or not it's a good quality adhesive or it's one that is a little bit cheaper, but it's helping them get by for their business model. So that's why you often hear from lash artists that yes, it takes 24 hours before it can fully dry, but Jidam is saying that that is not the case. It really depends on which products you're using, who's making it, and all of that. So if you truly want to know the right answer, you really have to be talking to the creators of these products.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'm such a person of fact. I don't like to say things without proof.
I think that's good. That's good. You don't want to spread misinformation out there.
Exactly. So to showcase the information that I just explained, I would like to create a fan, and then I dip it right into the water so you can see firsthand of how it sets right away within 1 second.
Why you had that. I thought you were going to drink water. Okay.
Okay, Jung, so I'm gonna need a close-up very soon. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a fan.
And you're using your fingers and tool there, huh?
To create a fan. Here's the fan. Very good. It's okay. That's fine. Okay, let me find where's the best place to show you the fan. Okay, probably you can see it here. Yeah, okay, you can see it a little bit, right? So now I dip in the glue. Okay, very good. So I'm gonna dip it into the water right away.
Okay, which is a no-no according to many artists.
Yes.
Yes.
So I dip into the water right away. And then let me put it on here. Hopefully you can see it here. Okay. Our first time going live, so we have some to coordinate with the technical side of this. This is a very professional setup, so it requires a lot of coordination. But hopefully later when he can close up more, then you can see how the fan is set. So the reason why I show you the reason why I showed that close up is because if I use, that's really good, Dũng. Yeah, perfect. So if I do this, I create the fan. Let me see how I can show it more. Maybe with
on her skin. It's
light skin,
enough, I think.
like right here. But I think the angle of the camera is different. Maybe, honey, can I have a napkin? I can put it on a napkin. We have like a whole team of support here to provide what? To give you the information that you're watching. So, okay, so let me see if you can see it.
Okay.
Oh, maybe like that. Okay, perfect. So you can see, oh, there you go.
Perfect.
Okay, so you can see the fan. Okay, it's not really close up, but it's okay. So we don't want to stress out the technical man here. He's trying his best to focus for us. But here, here's the fan, right? So if I just dip it into the adhesive and then I release, this fan will collapse. Okay, so I will pick that fan up in just a matter of seconds, and then you will see there's no more fan. It all collapsed into one clump. It clumped back. Because imagine these are parallel strand of lashes. So when the adhesive is still wet, you put it in, it's gonna clump back into just one clump. No more. So you can see there's no more fan here, right? That's perfect, Dũng. It looks great. Thank you, Em. Okay, so now now you can watch. If I dip it into the water, then the fan will stay.
And while you do that, I'm just going to check to see if there's any
questions
or anything
okay.
like that.
Okay, so here I'm creating a fan. So here I have a fan, right? There you go, I have a fan. You can see, it's not very clear, but you can see the butt of the fan, the root of the fan is a lot darker, and then you see it fading out. I dip it into the adhesive. And then I dip into the water. Here's the water. I dip into the water. And then I release it. And then you can see that the fan still stays. Wow. Yeah, it doesn't collapse. So actually, I happen to got trained by a very reputable company where it's called Russian Queen, and she actually one of the true caring person. She cares enough to talk with the chemist before she come out with her own brand. So she actually talked with her chemist, and her chemist saying that the steam and the moisture actually help set the lash better, faster. So that's why you see after the set, they tend to use a nano mist or like some liquid balm to set it. So those are just moisture. Okay, so those are the information that I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there about pre-made and handmade, and about whether to, and the reason I would like to bring up about whether we should wash the lash in the 24 hours is because our clients tend to be so nervous about washing their lash. They tend to come back with a lot of buildup because they don't wash it.
So you're so afraid, what should you do? This is a big investment.
Right.
In taking care of myself, and I want to take care of my lashes. So, yeah, some people, I think, are so afraid to make their own decisions, and they really look to their lash artist in finding out these answers. So that's why a lot of people ask their lash artist, when can I shower? When can I wet my face? How often should I do that? What kind of solutions should I use to clean? And can I wear eyeshadow? Can I wear eyeliner and things like that? And so a lot of people, I know that I'm guilty of that. One time I had to clean my lashes for me because I was so afraid of roughing them up. So I was being too gentle on my lash extensions. So maybe you can talk to our viewers about how you can maintain them to have a good life.
Yes. So the beauty of wearing lash extension is you probably don't have to maintain them. You only need to brush them twice a day and wet them. So the only thing is when you wet your face during shower and during the face wash, you just cup one eye like that. Tip your head back when you shower. So when the water does run into your eyes, it doesn't have a force and the weight that weigh it down. So as long as you let water seeping into the skin and running down into the lash, and then you use the lash to comb it. And when the lash is still wet, you put a napkin right under without pressing it. Just put it right under.
To soak?
Yes, that's all you need to do. You don't have to do anything else.
I remember you posted a video on Instagram. Right?
Yes, Instagram and also YouTube.
Why you should follow on Instagram and YouTube and on Facebook as well.
Right.
Because she does give you some insider tips on how you can maintain your lashes. Because oftentimes there are lash artists out there where if you look at their pages, they post a lot of before and after photos or just after photos, but they don't sometimes talk about the aftercare. And so sometimes you might search. I know that I'm guilty of this too. Whenever I want to find a quick solution, sometimes I'll go onto YouTube and just type something in. And sometimes the videos that you're watching, they're not being made by people who are in the industry. So that trick or that answer might have worked for that person, but it might not work for you and the ingredients that your lash artist is using.
Yes. So some clients choose to use like a baby shampoo to clean it. That is fine as well. And if they use like a lash foam to use it, to brush it, it's also fine. The only thing I find is that when the client is so obsessed with cleaning their lashes, they tend to fall off because they don't know how to comb it right. So they actually forcing the lash to come out premature. So that's why when my client come for a fill, I always fully wash them for them. That way they don't have to worry about cleaning them too much. And then that's also the reason why I enforce my client to follow our policy of doing a new set every few months. That way we can fully clean the lash and the skin. So now I'm moving in with more fan on the inner.
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing a beautiful contrast actually. She is moving towards the inner part of Alex's right eye. So you can see the outer portion is very voluminous. It's very dark, so it looks very, just really full. It looks really, like what your dream lashes would look like in your dreams. Lots of texture, so she's not just going through that horizontal line, that old-fashioned technique that she was talking to you guys about earlier, but really she's bringing some dimension and texture in there, so it doesn't look like just a strip lash that you would buy. There's texture as your normal lashes would have, that normal texture and all of that. They're just different lengths. Now she's adding these fans and these handmade fans to really bring volume.
It's very interesting when you mention about the texture, because a lot of time as an artist, we tend to check out other stylists' work.
That's good.
And then it's a way to learn, obviously. And then the other artists tend to share the mapping, which is the design, kind of like a blueprint of how to create that set. And then we tend to have a tendency of copy exactly what the other stylist is sharing, and then we apply it on our client. But from my experience, our client tend not to like the perfect work so much, because when you make it so perfect, it looks like you put a whole strip lash on. It doesn't look like extension anymore. So when we work on the client, we have to respect what kind of profession they're in. Can they wear natural lash? Can they wear, if they are like a performing artist, then yes, full on volume. But if they
dramatics, yes.
but if they are a doctor or they are a lawyer or they an executive, then you're gonna play with the texture a lot, trying to imitate the natural texture so that it maintains the natural end result. So when a lash artist sit on the chair and work, she got to bear in mind to balance the artistry and the business aspect of it, so that she have to know that the client doesn't have 2 hours or 4 hours to sit there, because to do like a perfect fan, like every single fan looking the same, require about 5 minimum hours. And no client would be giving her that amount of time. So we have to figure out a way to compensate for it.
So a lot goes through your mind.
Yes, exactly. That's why
these mathematical.
Yes, that's why I'm saying
solving all these mathematical questions in your mind.
That's what I'm saying. When you're doing lash, you should nail down the technique already, and you just focus on the design and the timing. That's always a question that raised through my mind, because I tend to have 1 hour booked per client.
1 client per hour booked?
Yeah, like every hour I have 1 client, right? On average, sometimes I have only 45 minutes.
Wow.
So I'm under the pressure of timing every day. And some of my clients say she's a plastic surgeon, or like say she's an executive a woman. She don't have 2 hours for me, but she still like to look pretty. So I have to come up with a formula so that, and it has to last and it has to look good, because these ladies, they don't have time to come every 2 weeks.
No.
They're very busy. They'd rather come very few times a month.
Yeah, I brought up texture just because I know, when, for example, when you go get a haircut, depending on your personal taste, but most women, when you go get a haircut, you don't want too blunt of a haircut, just one straight line, because when you dry it or do whatever you do at home, it doesn't look as nice as a stylist would do it. So it just looks really blunt and it doesn't have shape, and that's why you ask, when you go in, a lot of people ask for texture, layers and things like that. That way your hair can move and it just looks more natural, right? But you're using an effect to make it look like it's moving by adding texture and dimension to your hair. So with your lashes, that's why Ji-Jum said that, we don't use that old technique of just filling in that horizontal line, because that's just very blunt, and that's what people would do in the very beginning of this industry. But now with new advances and more education and just the ability to kind of create your own blueprint,
Yes.
you are able to just add more dimension and create a different look for your clients. But every client wants something different, and you don't just repeat that same blueprint for every single client, because not everyone is the same. Everyone has a different profession, and they get lashes for different reasons as well.
So that's why I always say I share to my student. Normally, it takes me only 2 days to train them the technique, and 3 months to build a clientele. And I always tell them that right now you're my student, but in 3 months you're gonna be my coworker. Because I'm being a student myself, like throughout my career as an accountant and as a beautician, I still take classes every year to advance. And I learned that you can only have your own way of doing things when you grow out of the way that you learn from another artist and turn that knowledge into your own way. You have to forget about what you learn. So when you first learn something, you try to copy exactly what they teach, and then eventually ask a question of whether it fit my perception, whether it fit the way that I think it will look good on my client, and turn it into your own craft. Then you have their own way, your own blueprint, and and feel confident.
Well, it looks really good so far.
Yeah, so
I wish you could see it, Alex. You'll see it later. It looks beautiful.
let me lower it a little bit. So just 2 more fans, because I think we're almost at the end of the live stream portion that we register for.
Yeah, so again, if you're just tuning in right now, Debunk is a beautician. She owns her own lash extension salon out in Santa Monica. It is called Lash Pilot. You can find her on social media, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, with that same exact handle, Lash Pilot. And on her social media pages, she posts photos pretty often. It feels like almost every day.
Every day.
I see it pretty often. She posts videos, photos, insider tips, and she is beginning this YouTube series here with live streams where she's going to post mini lessons like today. It's about an hour long, and you walk away with a lot of different information, things that you wouldn't get from a book, right? If you're just reading about how to make lash extensions or do lash extensions, they don't tell you about these extra tidbits, right? Those are things that you learn when you actually become your own business person, you run your own business, but you can also walk away with that information if you find mentors and seek out teachers in the industry. That's the only way that you get to know these shortcuts. If you don't seek out those mentors, then you'll learn on your own later, and by then you might not know how to respond. So it's good to kind of pick brains of people that you admire in the industry. That way you can be prepared for certain things that come up.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you bring up the mentor, because with this career, it's a practice career. It's not just knowledge. So if you sign up for a class, after, like I said, after 2 days, you can learn the technique. I have trained so many students, so an average person can learn how to do this in 2 days. And because I hire them right after to become my stylist, so I get to watch them for the straight 3 months, what they do after. So it tends to be after the first 2 days, I would break up into 15 minutes. I would come in and check their work and give them response so they could not make a mistake in the first 2 days that I train them. And then when I put them on the job, they tend to make mistake right away. So when a student go and learn and go home and doesn't have a mentor, and in the process of the beginning of they come out and do things on their own, they will make mistake.
And no one to catch your mistakes.
No, and they struggle, and they struggle on their own to solve their own problems. So when you have a mentor, and it doesn't have to be in person with the technology, it can be FaceTime, it can be Zoom, it can be webinar, right here on YouTube, live session right here, you can ask questions, right? So that's where it will prevent, because once you make a bad mistake, a bad habit, it will become a habit. The reason I say that is because I hired a stylist before, and when she come in, she said, I have done eyelash extension for 8 years. Wow. And I had a lot of respect for her. 80 to 90% of the things that she did was correct, but then there's still minor thing. Like after she finished, she doesn't check, and then the client always couldn't open her eyes. And for a stylist,
glue.
Yeah, they glue the top and the bottom together. It's very small mistake, fixable, But being in the industry for 8 years and you still make that kind of mistake is,
It's like a rookie mistake.
yeah, like a routine mistake that no one correct, All right, so I will have Alex fan a little and then
Prior to opening her eyes.
yes,
Yeah.
so that the adhesive completely cured. Because if she open right away when the adhesive is not cured yet, the film is still vaporing, and she will feel a little burning sensation.
Okay, so if you're just tuning into the very end here, after this video saves, you can refer back to this video. But Debunk is basically combing through what she did on Alex here. On her left eye, you can see it's bare. These are Alex's natural lashes. And on the right eye, Debunk first started with a classic set, and then she built upon that classic set with some hybrid Russianvolume fans that she handmade. So instead of purchasing pre-made fans, outsourcing it from a different country and waiting for it to get shipped and having to deal with the possibility of the quality not being up to par, Debunk likes to create her own fans. She seems to have 2 different methods. I saw her using her fingers and the tool, but then there's also times where she used the tool and kept the lashes or the extensions on that little pad that she had there. And then she put the...
Attach it on. There are actually 3 main methods.
Wow, oh, I'm sorry. That too.
I have, we're going to have an online class about how to create a fan. So if you leave your email in the description, we will notify you when the class is ready. And I can almost guarantee you, if you follow step by step, I always break it down to small steps, and you follow one step at a time, you can create a fan in the matter of 2 days. Different methods.
So not only follow her on social media, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, she also has a website, www.lashpilot.com. You can just search for her on that handle, Lash Pilot, and then you will be able to find all of her work, photo examples, videos of tips and tricks and things like that. But also here on YouTube, where in the future you're going to see many more live streams just like this one here. And there you can DM her, you can send her a direct message, email her, or leave your own email address in the description area underneath that area, so that way she can reach out to you and let you know when she has these opportunities, these live streams and classes open. Because just like what she said, she is still a student herself. I remember there was a year, I think you went to Vegas, and you learned from someone, and that is just how you grow in this business, according to Tiem, who has been in the business for a long time. So picking brains of mentors out there and teachers, learning from them, seeing what they do, practicing, and then creating your own blueprint. You don't have to follow exactly what you learned, but you can add your own touches to it.
Yes, just like somebody say, when you creative, it's not like just coming from your own foundation. You learn from other people, you copy, and then you just consolidate it into your own way.
I think it's something like imitation is. There's
a saying, right?
But it basically means that if we're copying you and creating our own blueprint, we really think you're great.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
Thank you so much, Em, for being here with me.
Yeah,
and thank you everyone for watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching, tuning in. We hope that you learned something from Debunk today. This is just
and thank you for our beautiful model. Maybe now it's time for her to open her eyes so that we can check the before and after, or we can compare.
Very beautiful.
So you can see, like if I analyze, you can see her. So this is the almond shape. It goes from short to longer and then shorter. It's a hybrid set. So you will see some thicker one and then some finer lash in between. So if you can analyze her natural lash right here, they go in different direction. So if you only use a classic lash, it will still create that gap on her lash. So we need the fan to fill in the gap. Say, for example, this spot right here. So you can see like this spot right here. So if you only use a classic lash on this spot, it won't give the coverage. And the beauty of the Russian volume is it creates the eyeliner effect. So on her, I do a hybrid, and then we also do kind of like a natural look on her, but imagine when I do thicker fans or like more fan, because she still have a lot of lash to be filled, then the whole thing will be filled up, and then it will become an eyeliner. So the client, when she woke up, get ready, go to work, she not having to do anything else other than just skin.
Waking up. Yeah, and I think if you take care of your skin, then you just naturally radiate.
And you know what? I just think about right now with the pandemic, everything is covered except for your eyes.
Yes. Yes.
That's the only place where you need to put some makeup on, just the eyes. All right, thank you everyone for watching, and we will be continuing with many more live stream. Make sure you put your email in the description, and we will send out notification. We will send out topic, what we're talking about. And then even though during that live stream event, we don't touch on the topic that you're concerned, you can always type in the comment and we will answer for you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.